How to clean your greens. Your greens come in big bundles, and you check them out, look them over, make sure they're not bruised or have like old leaves like this here. You just rip that off because you don't want to consume that. That's got, you know, water, mold on it.
Ew!
And bend your greens like this. Make sure you hit the vine, and you just snatch them off like that, and you come off the stalk clean, and then they look like that. So when they look like this, I take them and roll them up.
What?
Roll the greens, and then I rip them. When you rip the greens, they'll come out tender. But if you cut them, you must cook them right away, because if you cut them and don't cook them right away, they get tough. So when I come back after I pick on all my greens, I'm going to show you how to, after the meat has cooked down, and how you take your greens and you're going to put them in the pot and let them cook down. Then I'm going to tell you about that liquid gold that you put on the greens so that the greens get nice and tender and flavorful. Okay, now I have small helpers today. My little children are helping me film for me. So I am taking the greens. As you see, I've picked all the greens, and I'm taking them.
Stop moving me, Jacob.
Move. Get down, please. And I'm taking the greens, and I am rolling them up, and then I'm ripping them in the other sink because they have to be washed a number of times. You cannot wash your greens one time because greens have dirt and sand on them depending on where you purchase them. So you have to make sure what region they actually grew in. If they grew down south in Georgia, they're going to have red clay dirt and some sand. So you have to take them and you just roll them like a little cigar, and you just rip them. Just rip them and drop them in the next batch of water to get them really clean. And I'll probably wash them after I've got them all shredded like this. I will probably wash them another 2 to 3 times to make sure that the water is very clean. And I put baking soda in the water just to make sure it's clean. And you have to put salt in your water to wash them, because if there's bugs in there, the salt will pull the bugs out and kill them. So you won't have any extra protein that you weren't expecting in your greens. So, but if you have little small pieces like this, you don't have to rip that. You don't have to rip those little small pieces. Just go ahead and throw that over there. So when I come back, I'm going to finish my other batch of greens. I have 2 bundles. So with the bundles, you just rip them again and take them and put them in the water just so that, you can get them clean. And that's the beginning of learning how to pick your greens. And when we come back, I will let you know how it turns out. So I wanted to show you how my collard greens come. I buy them in a bundle like this, and there's usually 2 stalks. Sometimes you get a good stalk and you'll get 3 sometimes. But the reason I use collard greens that are fresh and that you have to pick is because when they're in the bag, they're tough. They're not, and you don't know how long they've been sitting on that shelf. And so what you do is just get you a couple of pair of scissors, and you just cut the cellophane off. And if you're lucky enough to have a fresh food market really close to you, then they won't be wrapped like this. But you can also use the fresh ones that are in the bundles, and you just get that and you let them free. And then you can just loosen them up some, and you get pretty good bundles. And collard greens are really easy to cook. That's why I'm doing the first tutorial on the collard greens, because it's a lot easier and quicker than, I'm sorry if you weren't looking, it's easier than the mustards and the turnips. I'll be right back. Another thing you should know, that if your greens they look wilted and they look like they have no life in them, it's okay, because once you put them in cold water, it stiffens them back up, so they have a life back in them. Because here you can see they look a little, lifeless. But once you just put cold water on them, it'll be just fine. So I'm going to start this next bunch so I can add it to what I've already done, so I can get ready to get it in my pots over here. You see my pot with my meat. My meat is boiling. The white stuff on top of here is the salt and the smoke flavor, the smoking elements. A lot of people call it impurities, but you can scrape that off with a slotted spoon and get that off if you don't want that in your greens. Now I have all the greens picked, and I'm getting ready. I started another sink full of water so I can go ahead and get ready to I can get ready to wash the greens for a second time. And basically you just put them over here and you must shake them. You got that, you're just shaking all that, any debris that may be on there, such as sand, little bugs you might have missed. You know, they have caterpillars. You have caterpillars. You little worms may be on it, but not too much. You know, with the pesticide stuff going on. But anyway, we want to just make sure that we have the greens going to be very clean. And I'll do this 2 more times to make sure that my greens are very clean. I want to make sure that they stay very clean. And when I come back, I'll be putting them in the pot. Okay, now as you can see, I've got the greens in the pot. I have put them in so that they can start cooking down. The smoked meat is still in here. See, it's there. And you can tell it gets tender when you can pierce it with a fork. If you can't pierce it with the fork, that means that it is not tender. You see how that is going in there real nice and easy. And then you're just going to cook these down. I still have a whole nother sink full of greens to put in this pot. And once I get those in there, and my liquid gold is bacon grease. It's just leftover bacon grease from your bacon. You want to pour that over your greens because, believe it or not, oil cooks greens. And then I'll tell you what I'm going to season my greens with. I'm going to season with some fresh cracked pepper. Well, it's not fresh, but crushed red pepper and a little bit of accent just for flavoring, just for taste. And what I love to use down here in Georgia is the Wiley's green seasoning. After it cooks down, you just put this one little packet over those greens, and it's going to help give it a little bit flavor. So I'll show you what it looks like when we come back. Okay, now that I have the greens cooking, I'm going to take a little bit of the accent and just sprinkle a little around. You don't want very much because you don't want it to have an aftertaste. And then I'm taking my green seasoning here and pouring that in. And again, that is green seasoning. And I'm going to take my cracked pepper and just sprinkle. You don't have to have a lot. There's no, it's probably maybe about a half a teaspoon amount because it's just to add some heat and flavor to it, to your greens. And then you're just going to stir that in and just let them keep cooking. And then it tenderizes the greens. We're going to put the oil in the greens because the oil is going to give it flavor and it's going to tenderize and it's going to make them cook really good. So I take my liquid gold. Sorry, I'm cameraman and operator. And you just pour over the greens. And honestly, it's not a lot of oil because the greens, for some reason, soak it up. It doesn't even have enough oil in here to finish the cooking period. But I will be adding more when I'm done. Okay. And I'll show you the results of the finished product when we come back.